Hello, friends. My name is Kuldeep Bhardwaj, and I bring up you the complete series of VMware Cloud Foundation. We will go through with the deep dive webinar. We have multiple series, and we are covering these in multiple parts. Today, I'm focusing on part one, where we'll be talking about overview and introduction of VMware Cloud Foundation. Let's get started. Before that, don't forget to subscribe my channel, and if you have any query or question related to webinar or any feedback, you can feel free to write us on nextgencf@gmail.com. Thank you very much. Let's get started. So first of all, what we are going to cover through the entire webinar series, like today we are on the first part of it, that is VMware Cloud Foundation overview and introduction. Well, uh, the part one will be VMware Cloud Foundation overview and introduction that we are covering today. Then part two will be VMware Cloud Foundation Plus, where we'll be talking about the VCF Plus offering, what is it and how it's going to be we can utilize like for future VMware Cloud Foundation deployment. Part three, we will be talking about VCF Day Zero tasks, where we'll be talking about the way of VMware Cloud Foundation will be deployed in customer environment. Then part four will be talking about the post deployment operations. When we say the post deployment operation, what are the mandatory setting you have to configure post your day zero deployment of VMware Cloud Foundation. Part five will be talking about VMware Cloud Foundation networking with NSX, what all the SDN component and how we are going to utilize NSX in VMware Cloud Foundation environment. Then part six, we'll be talking about managing the workload domains. Further, to create the number of workload domains and cluster in your environment. Then vSphere with Tanzu in VMware Cloud Foundation, especially for modernizing your applications, how we are going to deploy the Tanzu setup in your VCF environment. Then VMware Cloud Foundation storage management, how do we manage the storage, what type of storages are supported in VMware Cloud Foundation environment. Then we'll talk about availability and business continuity, how we can make the overall VCF solution as much as reliable, as much as resilience. Then VMware Cloud Foundation certificate management. How do we manage the certificates for VMware Cloud Foundation environment, lifecycle management, and last but not the least, the VMware Cloud Foundation troubleshooting. So stay tuned with us. We are coming up with the number of videos, number of hands-on labs for you. We'll be covering in multiple series of webinars. Well, like as I said, today we'll be talking about the VMware Cloud Foundation overview and introduction. First of all, what are the key points that we are covering in today's webinar? We'll be talking about challenges for adopting the cloud environment for a customer, then overview and advantage of VMware Cloud, then the VMware Cloud Foundation key solution component, the deployment topology, deployment type, and last we'll be talking about the VMware validated solution. What is it? All right, so stage is set for you. Let's get started. Well, if we talk about challenges with the cloud adoption, when a customer is trying or customer is planning for adopting the cloud. So what first of all a customer is looking for, the cloud, the target cloud is good for running my modernized applications, for my modern app, where the the applications are more sophisticated, and their requirement and their architecture, how I'm going to plan and how I'm going to build in the cloud environment, but that does not matter whether that is a private cloud or public cloud. Slow, when we say slow, long time to provision IT and application resources, right? So what it means is like we are planning for building kind of a underlying infrastructure. Maybe you're planning some of the compute environment, some of the network, some of the storage, and further for security. It's take longer time for planning the overall setup. Inefficiency, unplanned downtime, wasted capacity and infrastructure. You are like again for adopting the cloud, like there could be unplanned downtime while you are moving or while you are transforming your applications from legacy infrastructure to the cloud base, or maybe legacy data center to cloud based environment. non-compliant. It's not mandatory every time. Every cloud platform is following up the all compliance and governance the for your applications that you are already running up or you are planning for building in the new environment. Choice of cloud, like you see in the world today, there's a lot of cloud providers, lot of private cloud providers, lot of public cloud providers. So it's always make us confusion while we are making the decision for choosing up the target cloud environment. Then siloed team, when we say siloed teams, difficult to work with people and process. If a customer adopt a new cloud environment, like they have different set of people, maybe someone is taking care of another private cloud, someone is taking care of another cloud. So could be number of team members. Okay, so what is the VMware vision, what VMware brings up for you? So VMware trying for you is bring up the same platform, the unified platform across different locations, whether it is your private cloud, public cloud, or it is the edge location. They wants to give you the consistent infrastructure, the consistent operation. Does not matter whether you are residing in private cloud, you are residing in public cloud, or you are residing any remote or edge location. That's the overall goal for the of the VMware. You are making the traditional VM architecture, or you are making the modernized infrastructure for running up your application into the containerized platform and the unified platform for management and operation. That's what is the VMware vision. And to to give you the consistent security over all the environment, whether it's again it's a public cloud or your on premises data center or any remote location. VMware tried with you just to bring up the same VMware cloud environment that we refer as VMware Cloud Foundation to, the same set of management, same set of compute environment, the similar kind of storage environment, similar kind of the networking environment. That's primarily standardizing your architecture, your application architecture. You don't need to be, again, you don't need to be re-architect your application if you are moving from one place to another place. Full stack approach, tested and validated solutions, app services, and lot of infrastructure operations. That's bring down actually the your total TCO, or the kind of uh, the capex and opex 30 to 40% simplified experience, and lot of built-in security parameters that would be taken care by kind of your compliance and governance across the different locations. Well, so what is VMware Cloud Foundation actually? A VMware Cloud Foundation is a built-in software-defined stack that's bring up together your software-defined compute, software-defined storage, software-defined networking, software-defined security, and the cloud management in a single, in a unified platform. So what it will do, it's going to build the entire private cloud stack for you, just a matter within few hours. That's provide you the automated lifecycle management, and also it's not limited to that you are bring up kind of your VCF within your private cloud environment. Also it's provide you the facility to the remote side deployment, and also to integrate with the public cloud. So automated deployment saving a lot of cost and lot of efforts for the customer, automated lifecycle management, support for traditional and new workload, and enables the path of hybrid cloud. When we say enables the path of hybrid cloud, the VCF can be further integrated with your public cloud provider. It could be Azure, AWS, Google, IBM, or VH, and the number of clouds, and you can swing your VMs here to there as and when requires. So it makes a lot of use cases for the customer for adopting the hybrid cloud environment. Well, when we say the software building blocks of the VMware Cloud Foundation, what are the key software building blocks? So primarily, a VCF stack could be deployed at on-premise environment that you have to build yourself. You can deploy any remote location, and also the same VCF stack could be deployed with the public cloud providers, but the way and the naming convention is bit different as compare your you do on-prem. Like for example, you are doing with AWS. This refer as VMC on AWS. Azure you refer as AVS. Google Cloud Virtualization Engine. Also, it sits with another public cloud providers too. The way of deploying it be different with the public cloud provider. Okay, so let's talk about the key software building blocks. As I said, like from compute perspective, it use the VMware ESXi and the vCenter for management, and vSAN is the primary storage kind of software defined storage that you provide us. Okay, and SDDC manager, we'll be talking a lot about SDDC manager in the coming slide, but with FIS software defined data center management, that's primarily taking care of any kind of data operations or the daily operations with your VMware Cloud Foundation environment. NSX, which provide the software defined networking capability that you can perform a lot of software defined tasks over the NSX. vSphere with Tanzu, you can build up your platform, the containerized platform and the containerized infrastructure for developing the modernized application, and the vRealize shoot that we refer as also ARIA shoot. VRealize shoot also we refer as ARIA shoot, where we will deploy it, and on the top of it we can deploy the number of vRealize shoot component kind of your VRA, that's refer as ARIA automation 2, and the vRealize operations for monitoring that we refer as vRealize operation for monitoring, vRealize log insight we refer as ARIA operations for log insight. So there's multiple names altogether. So this entire stack makes you the kind of overall VCF environment. Definitely, they underline you require the physical ESXi host with connected storage and connected underlay component. This is your fundamental layer where you are, putting it. So where you can put private cloud environment, you can put the remote or edge locations, and also you can put with the another hyperscaler. So while you are building up with hyperscaler VCF, as I told, with different hyperscalers, the naming conventions are different. Yeah, but yes, for on-prem you have to do all the kind of the leverage of hardware, and the you have to build the end-to-end kind of environment for the VCF. Okay, so let's quickly jump on another slide. So the key terminology in the VMware Cloud Foundation, you will be listening more and more end to end, like server and host. When we say server and host, a server is nothing. This is your ESXi server that you are going to build on the top of a physical bare metal server. A cloud builder VM, the cloud builder VM will be a kind of virtual appliance that will be further building up your management domain. Under the management domain, a management cluster will be deployed, where in this management cluster you will be seeing like of your vSphere environment will get deployed, your NSX will get deployed, and your primarily the vSAN stack. So this is the native stack that you are going to build with the help of cloud builder appliance. Deployment parameter sheet will helps you to define the credentials, define the network detail, define the host details, certificate details. That all you have to fill in the cloud deployment parameter sheet. So this cloud deployment parameter sheet is a kind of Excel sheet that you have to import in your cloud builder applies further to building up the management domain cluster. Bring up process. So bring up process is again like you will start your cloud builder appliance by accessing the HTTPS and the IP address of cloud builder appliance, and on the top of it you are just pushing up the XLS, your Excel file or .json file under the cloud builder appliance, yeah, and your building up will be completed for the management domain. Network pool primarily we refer as we have to define some network pools for expanding the existing cluster in management domain or the workload domain that we'll be talking about more in upcoming slides. and you have to define some of the network for your vSAN, some of the network for your vMotion, for your NFS storage, for your iSCSI storage, for your vVol storage. That all will be defined the network port. Workload domains kind of you will be building two types of workload domain. One is management workload domain. When we say management workload domain, you will be keeping all of the management virtual appliances and the VI workload domain. Under the VI workload domain, you will be just putting up your workload virtual machines. We'll be talking more in upcoming slide. Don't worry about that. Lifecycle manager primarily we refer as kind of patch and upgrading activity for your VCF stacks. Next is supportability and serviceability SOS tool. Supportability and serviceability tool is primarily help us for kind of health check of the VCF environment and kind of when we are performing any kind of troubleshooting in VCF. So this is inbuilt utility within your SDDC manager. So this is just a brief. These all fundamentals terminology you'll be hearing about continuously. This is just a brief, very much high level brief. We'll be talking much in upcoming slides or in the upcoming webinar series about these technologies. This is just for your overview purpose. Well, the key building blocks like VCF Cloud Builder. So when we say Cloud Builder, it's a kind of OVF appliance that you have to deploy any kind of outside environment. Maybe you are running some workstation, Fusion, or local in your laptop type with using type 2 hypervisor. So this cloud builder appliance should be end of the day should talk with your physical ESXi host that you'll be preparing for building up the management domain cluster. It could be outside somewhere, either in another kind of ESXi host or any of the platform you are using altogether. Then this will be helping you a lot, like of kind of building your keep in mind this is for building the management domain cluster only. Once this management domain cluster will be deployed, later on you can shut down or you can turn off or you can delete this VM. There is no much role post deployment of management domain cluster for your VMware cloud builder appliance. Well, the next key component is SDDC manager. So SDDC manager will be the part of day zero deployment of your management cluster. So what it will be doing, how you will be accessing it, you will be accessing it through the UI console or through the API gateway. So UI console, you are accessing what all the common services are available. You can perform kind of network pool creation, locking, inventory creation, identity by credential stores, your appliance manager, all the task aggregators. Then further the services kind of UI, Pantheon, domain manager, operation manager, lifecycle manager, SOS. So all these services are available together kind of in your SDDC manager. So the key role of your SDDC manager is managing your VCF clusters through UI mode, performing day two operations. When we say day two operations, under the day two operations, you want to build kind of new cluster, you want to scale up your cluster, you want to scale down your cluster, any kind of life cycle management, you want to patch, upgrade your clustering environment, your certificate environment, your network pool creation, your workload domain creation, deletion. All these tasks are primarily taken care by the software defined data center manager. So this is one of the mandatory component that once you will build your VCF stack management domain. Next key component is VMware vSphere. Under the VMware vSphere, you'll be getting deploy your ESXi. Your ESXi that you have to build natively first, but once it will deploy kind of the VCF setup, this is one of the mandatory component for building up the VCF setup, the vSphere that you have installed vCenter server. That's primarily taking care of your management activity, kind of HA, DRS, vMotion, and all that would be taken care by the vCenter server. And a PSC, the common that is a platform service controller that primarily taking care of your single sign-on actions, your licensing service, and the certificate authority. That's one taken care by the vCenter server. So how many vCenter servers will be primarily created? Like we'll talk in upcoming slides. When you create a management domain, a new vCenter will get created for a management domain. And if you are creating the new workload domains, so each workload domain will have its separate vCenter server. Each workload domain will have its separate vCenter server. vSAN overview. So for the vSAN, again, is the mandatory component for your management cluster. It will aggregate all the local storage, integrate. vSAN is a native feature of your hypervisor. It's managed through vSphere client using the vCenter server, where you can define the policy-based storage consumption. You can make an stretch cluster, standalone cluster. You can leverage the all-flash drive or hybrid mode. Data rest encryption, native health services available with the Skyline Health Advisor. So lot of features and functionality available within vSAN. Again, vSAN would be the mandatory storage for building up your management cluster. However, for workload domain, it's your choice. Either you can go with vSAN or another type of storage, kind of FC or vWall or NFS. NSX provides the consistent networking and security operation for your private cloud, public cloud, and the containers. That's primarily will be functioning up the kind of all the SDN activities, software-defined networking activities. When we say software-defined networking activities, it could be your switching, it could be your routing, it could be your VPN, DHCP, DNS. A lot of functions are available that will talk in detail in the networking section. Just for high level architecture for NSX always have a management plane. Through the management plane, we'll give the instruction or whatever the task we have to perform. Management plane by default integrated with my vCenter server environment. Then we have the control plane. Control plane primarily we give the whatever the commands will given through the NSX management plane. It goes to control plane, and control plane further push it to the local control planes for your ESXi host or all the edge nodes. Okay, so where we could deploy the NSX, as I said, NSX is for all kind of environment, either your private cloud or your public cloud hosted with VMware and containers. So it's provide you all services to all kind of the environment. Okay, and kind of, yeah, definitely for the core, the kind of underlay network is the mandatory component for your VCF setup. ARIA Suite Lifecycle Manager. When we say ARIA Suite Lifecycle Manager, it's going to deploy all your components, kind of ARIA automation. We refer as vRealize automation as well. Workspace one for identity, authentication, and authorization purpose. ARIA operations for log, ARIA operations for network. So this all being taken care by your ARIA Suite Lifecycle Manager. So however, it's an optional for you. When we say the optional, it means that you want to keep in your environment the ARIA component or not. Okay, so it's all matter like as per the customer requirement. vSphere with Tanzu. When we say vSphere with Tanzu, it's provide you the services to run your Kubernetes workload. So you will be deploying the Tanzu Kubernetes grid services on the top of kind of you can leverage any of the cluster that you have built in your, probably in your management domain or maybe in the workload domain. So it's further will be using again the the vSphere Tanzu is the optional services for your environment. If you want to enable and you want to modernize your applications, you want to run your application to the containerized environment, so you can enable the vSphere Tanzu services within your VCF environment on the top of management domain or in any of the cluster in management domain or in workload domain. When we say the software bill of material, the bill of material, it's all matter like the version of VCF you are choosing upon the cloud builder VM. Like this software bomb is showing up the software bomb for your VCF version 5. So it's all matter like again it's a pre-validated and pre-standardized version of your VCF. So cloud builder VM 5.0 SDDC manager, then the vCenter server appliance. These are the versions for vSAN and all. So as I said, it's all matter like which of the VCF version you are working upon. According to that, you have to elect your software bill of material that is available on VMware site itself. When you will browsing up the VMware Cloud Foundation release notes, you will find there the available bill of material. So it's pre-validated and pre-standardized. So when we say the VMware Cloud Foundation topology, the VMware Cloud Foundation topology, so VMware Cloud Foundation could be deployed within a single availability zone or a single site or a single region, where you can build multiple local clusters or kind of stretch cluster within multiple racks. And the kind of stretched cluster deployment where you are stretching your cluster within a single region or across multiple regions. So it could be deploy as a single cluster or it could be deployed as a stretched cluster. So when we say, like, from availability zone perspective, within availability zone, it could be your cluster, your management cluster, your workload cluster could be part of kind of single rack, where you are not getting the kind of rack level redundancy. If this rack will get failure, your maybe the entire management cluster will get failure and the entire workload domain cluster will get failure. A workload domain is span to multiple racks. When we say they span to multiple racks, some of the nodes could be available within one rack, some of the node could be available in another rack. So in that way, we can define the rack level failure tolerance. If this will get failure, still my second rack nodes will be keep on running, and my cluster will be in a healthy state. My workload will keep on running. So it could be single rack topology or it could be the multi rack topology. When we say the multi-availability zone, so multi-availability zone is primarily refer to stretching your cluster under the multiple availability zone. If in case we feel there could be some disaster happen in one availability zone, so still my cluster is stretched across multiple availability zone. Any of the running workload in the primary availability zone, if I make it kind of active, kind of standby site, so any of the workload will be restarted if any disaster will happen into the primary site. So the deployment type, a deployment could be consolidated architecture, a deployment could be standard architecture. A consolidated architecture we refer as where all my management or all my customer workload VMs are running in the same cluster. A standard architecture where we refer as a management domain is separate for running up all the management component of the VCF environment, and a VI workload domain where we refer as kind of separately where customer VMs are running, and deploy a separate cluster or just for running the VDI workload running vSphere, and you integrated services separately kind of in the VI workload domain. So matter of building up the standard cluster, there is separate environment for running the separate kind of workload. So initially for a customer, if they are planning some kind of testing, initially first they can deploy consolidated architecture. Later on, they can deploy the standard architecture, and the standard architecture further later on they can move their VM to the respective cluster into the workload domain. So simple logic in nutshell will say consolidated architecture. There is a single cluster, where my management VMs and the customer workload running in the same cluster. Standard architecture, a management cluster is separate, and there could be number of clusters and number of workload domains be available where customer can run VMs, VDI, Tanzu, Kubernetes in separate clusters. All right. So in consolidated architecture, as I said, all the management component will be available within management cluster. My SDDC manager, vCenter, NSX manager, NSX8, where my area shoot is the optional component that will further running on the same cluster, and the workload resource. This is the customer workload VMs running in the same cluster. Where we see in the standard architecture, in standard architecture, you'll see there is separate management cluster and there is separate workload cluster. There is separate workload domain clusters. So within this, if a new workload domain will get created, for that workload domain a vCenter will get created, NSX will get created. Another workload domain get created, there should be one more vCenter and one more NSX. However, in this architecture, they have used the common NSX for these all, but it's not the mandatory architecture. Each workload domain, if I'm creating another workload domain here, each workload domain can have their separate vCenter server, separate NSX. However, for these vCenter NSX, these management VMs will be occupied resources from management cluster only, and they can create their separate edge nodes. And within workload domain, there could be number of clusters which will be sharing the common vCenter server and common NSX architecture. The other way for deploying the workload domain, you could have multiple workload domains which can share the common NSX constructs. That's what being shown here in this slide. What it means is a separate vCenter for this, separate vCenter for these, but NSX we could see the common NSX constructs being used for both the workload domains. So the both kind of architecture is possible. We could keep separate NSX and vCenter for each workload domain, or either we can keep the shared NSX architecture. However, end of the day, our vCenter server will be separate. So within a single sign-on domain, we can create total 15 workload domain, including management domain. When we say workload domain, this is my one workload domain, this is another workload domain, this is another workload domain. So we can create additional 10 more workload domains with different SSO. When we say total 15, 15 like that way, one is for management domain plus 14 workload domain. When we say VI workload domain for the workload, within workload domain we can have multiple clusters further, plus 10 more workload domain we can create with the separate SSO, separate single sign-on. However, for all these 15 workload domains, either it is my management or it is VI workload domain, my SSO would be common. Okay, let's move on the management domain component. So within management domain component, my SDDC manager, vCenter server, NSX manager, NSX edge. Again, these are the optional if we want to use kind of in and out traffic for the management gateway we can deploy. It's optional. And again, my ARIA suite components are optional, where first of all we have to deploy ARIA shoot lifecycle manager. Then further ARIA shoot lifecycle manager will be take care of ARIA operations for log, ARIA operations for monitoring, ARIA operations for automation or WOA, just for managing the authentication and authorization service. It's again an optional. For separate workload domain, like as I said previously, a workload domain can have a vCenter server and NSX manager. However, all these kind of resources for a new workload domain, if a set of vCenter and NSX manager will get created, the management VMs will be hosted within your management domain. Any kind of workload domain management VM, when I say management VM, vCenter server and the NSX manager will itself hosted on the top of, they will be leveraging the resources from the hardware resources from your management domain itself. Okay. So this is again another picture just for the better understanding. A management cluster where all my management components are hosted, all my vRealize component will be hosted, and I'm going to create a new workload domain. For this workload domain, my vCenter, my NSX manager will be consuming the resource itself from the management cluster. What is VMware validated solutions? So VVS is helping us while you are planning and you want to design the overall solution for your VCF environment. When we say the overall solution of VCF environment, how you are planning for designing your compute, how you are planning for designing your vSphere, how you are planning for design your SDDC manager, how you are planning for design your ARIA shoot lifecycle manager, how you are designing for ARIA automation, ARIA operations for log. So for all these, what is the best practices? What is the way of designing all these solutions? What is the way of integration these solutions together? What is the way of deploying these solutions together? This all is covered under the VMware validated solutions. Okay, so like simply if you will go to Google and you will just okay, so will type and you will try to find out the kind of VMware release notes. Under the VMware release notes, you will find the design guides for all these solutions. Okay, like planning preparation workbook, deployment guide, admin guide, and beside that, just Just one moment, I want to show you something on design, guys. This is the primary thing. Okay, VCF design management, virtual infrastructure domain, vRealize shoot management domain. So these all the component design perspectives are available under the VMware validated solution. So how the VMware validated solution is helping you? It's helping you the best practice, the way of designing the overall architecture of your VCF stack. Okay, so let's talk about licensing mode. Our licenses could be perpetual or could be subscription based. When we say the subscription based, you have to purchase your license online and your VCF will be registered online on the VMware Cloud Portal. If you want to use the subscription based license, you have to press yes. This all will be the part of your XLS preparation before building up the management domain cluster. But if you will select no here, these tabs will be highlighted in your Excel file, and you have to give the details of all the licenses that you required for building up the VCA. Okay, that's it for today's webinar. So just a quick recap what we have covered: overview and advantage of VMware Cloud Foundation. That's bring you a faster deployment of your the entire software defined stack within on-prem, also with the public cloud. But again, as I said, with the public cloud deployment is a bit different. For on-prem environment, you have to do all readiness yourself and you have to perform all day zero tasks yourself at on-prem. Still, as compared to the traditional SDDC build, it's saving you more than 60% of efforts. The key solution component, there we talk about the VMware vSphere, we talk about kind of SDDC manager, we talk about vSAN, we talk about NSX, which are the mandatory component of your stack. On the top of it, we talk about the ARIA Shoot Lifecycle Manager, which is again optional. We talk about Tanzu Kubernetes Grid, which is again an optional Tanzu Kubernetes Grid, which is again an optional as per the customer requirement. Then we talk about the deployment topology. Under the deployment topology, it could be your kind of it could be your consolidated architecture, or it could be your deployment topology. It could be your single region deployment. When we say single region or single location deployment, a deployment could be single leg, a deployment could be multi availability zone deployment. We talk about multi availability zone deployment, where we're talking about kind of any kind of clusters I am making for management domain or workload domain, that would be stretch across two availability zone just to create the as maximum as redundancy and making up a failover solution for this VMware Cloud Foundation deployments type. We talked about consolidated architecture. We talk about the standard architecture, where in consolidated architecture, all my management VMs, all my resource workload VMs would be the part of same cluster. A standard architecture, a management domain will be separate for management VM, and a workload domain will be separate, where we can create the multiple clusters within a single workload domain. Also, we can create the multiple workload domain itself, and within a single workload domain, there could be multiple clusters again. Each workload domain will create a separate set of vCenter, separate of set of NSX. However, it is your choice if you want to make a share NSX architecture. Then finally, we talk about VMware validated solution. That's helping you us the overall planning, overall designing, overall way of deployment, the entire VCF stack for the mandatory component and the optional component. And in last, we talk about the licensing part. Licensing, there is perpetual, there is subscription based license perpetual, where we select the no in Excel sheet during the deployment, and we have to fill the license manually. Where we talk about subscription based, we have to select yes, and we don't need to give any license in the Excel sheet, though will be registered with the VCF plus that we are covering up in the upcoming slide. That's what that is available. That's what I am just my purpose to for this for this webinar primarily. And the upcoming webinars will be covering more, as we have seen in the previously in the very first beginning slide. This series bring up you more, so stay tuned with us and just Yeah, just keep on liking, comment. Your comments is very helpful. If there is any improvisation area, I'll definitely do that. Share with your friends as maximum as possible, and don't forget to subscribe in last, and just press the notification bell icon so that you can see me the day I am, planning for the kind of live webinar. And thank you very much in last. Yeah, have a good day ahead and enjoy your day. Hope you have enjoyed this session. Thank you guys. Thank you very much.